disgrace the art of war. They are privileged to die at my feet. They disgrace the art of war. They will not enjoy this. Their fate is sealed. They are privileged to die at my feet. My profession! You know, now that I think of it, I've always wanted to be a baker. Yes, a baker. They disgrace the art of war. They will not enjoy this. Their fate is sealed. Getting kicked into a well is the least of your worries. My speed is restless. They will not enjoy this. Their fate is sealed. They are privileged to die at my feet. Yes, a baker.
Takes the peak, sprays him down, that's 3. Fantastic play.
Magnus goes in, gets a couple with the RP. It's stolen by Rubik. He gets all 5.
It is said that wars are only won upon the anvil of honor.
Others believe victory requires strategy and a mastery of power.
War is deception. A game played best from the shadows. Only strength and raw power can assure total
forget all that and just have fun! Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft.
Pretty overlays there. Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Penguin ZA, and I am joined tonight by Dylan de Bruin. Dylan, welcome. Thanks very much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thanks. This is going to be an interesting game. I'm looking forward to seeing some relative newcomers to the South African scene really put their names forward here in this pre-season cup.
Yeah, most definitely. So that everybody knows, this is the Telkom Digital Gaming League Pre-Season Cup Grand Final, which is between Jordan Bear Wilkie and Wayne Juggernaut Short. Correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Both very new to the DGL season. A lot of very much newcomers. So it's interesting to see that some of the newcomers are taking away, some of the veterans titles, and possibly some people to watch out for in the very near future.
Yeah, I think recently in South Africa we've seen a lot of newcomers to the scene in a lot of online tournaments recently, and at a lot of fireside gatherings. It's really, the Hearthstone scene is really picking up in South Africa, and it's really great to see. It's going to be a very rough ladder season for those in the ladder for Telkom's DGL, but yeah, it's going to be a very interesting season.
Yeah, no, most definitely. The season, obviously, there's a lot of players that are joining for the first time that have actually been very, how can you say, below or under the table, very much hidden in the caves in terms of competitive Hearthstone in South Africa, and out of nowhere people are coming out, and it's starting to show that there's a lot of talent here in South Africa, which Blizzard have picked up as well with regards to Cape Town being one of the satellite places for the spring qualifiers.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that Hearthstone is a very good game for people to get into esports. People that haven't come from a MOBA like Dota or LoL, for them, they might not have been exposed to the whole Telkom system, the whole DGL standards that we're used to here in South Africa. So I think for those people especially, like, Hearthstone has been really great, and it's been really good to see so many people so serious about their competitive esports, coming and joining us in the Hearthstone scene. But yeah, the Tavern Hero qualifiers, those were really great. A bunch were held over this last weekend. One here in Cape Town, one in Durban, and one in PE. I believe you were at the PE one. So
yeah, I was in the PE one. Bear actually took part. Previous fireside that I played against her, she was the one that actually knocked me out, which caused me to get, I think it was 3rd or 4th place within the losers bracket, which is a little bit of a bummer for me because I was really aiming to get a top 2 finish in that one. But recently in the Tavern Hero, again, I was knocked out into the loser bracket again by, I want to say RNG, but I can't complain because I was hitting implosions for 4 and 3. So 2 crackles in a row hitting me for 5 and 6. I can't really get too upset about that. But yeah, ended up placing against her in the loser bracket again. I was able to clinch I think it was a 3-1 or a 3-2 victory. Very close. Bear, very interestingly, plays very unique decks. The architect of the decks that she plays is the same, but she uses her own design in terms of I played against her and she was using one fireside, and she was playing a mech control priest, and it was mech control warrior, my apologies, and it was very unique. It was, I don't know, it was just had a very unique feel to it, and it just, I couldn't beat it with Patron. So yeah, she plays very unique decks. Juggernaut I don't know too much about, to be brutally honest with you. It'll be interesting to see what he actually brings to this this final. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I spoke to Juggernaut and Bear a bit beforehand, and as you say, Bear brings a lot of her own unique decks, which sometimes gives you a little bit of an advantage. The decks may not be as consistent as the decks that are, repeatedly tweaked by all your contributors in the meta, your pros across the world, and just contributors to things like Reddit. But the nice thing about bringing your own decks is that it's really difficult for your opponent to, you know, anticipate anything, especially when, like, let's say in the mulligan, you're not going to mulligan against a turn 1 warbot. I don't know if she was playing warbot or control warrior.
You joke.
But,
It's turn 1 warbot into turn 2 cruel taskmaster, and I'm like, what the hell am I playing against? I've never seen anything like this.
yeah.
So yeah.
That sounds like a very aggressive deck.
Yeah, it was very aggressive, and then all of a sudden shield slams came out, and I was like, I have no clue what I'm playing against, and I didn't know.
For board control.
Yeah, shield slam for board control, turn 4 death spike, turn 5 Lotheb, into turn 6 piloted sky golem. I'm like, I have no clue what I'm up against. There's control in here, there's mechs in here, I have no clue, and I just had no clue how to actually play around it at all. So it was actually very interesting. I'm keen to see what she's bringing today, though. Her decks at the fireside were actually very interesting as well, as normal. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen today. So that everybody knows, we're going to be spectating this game from Bear's side, which will be at the bottom of your screen. Juggernaut or Visions, as his battle tag is, will be on the top of your screen. It's going to be a very tight one. It's going to be in the format of Last Hero Standing, best of 5. So first player to pick up 3 wins will actually claim this one.
Yeah, and quite importantly, you don't have to submit your 3 deck lineup beforehand. You're just not allowed to have any duplicates of classes, so you can't have 2 warrior decks, but you can have 9 different decks, and that allows you to counter. I think one of the most important things in this tournament is winning the first game. Because if you win the first game and your opponent counters you, and then you can counter them back, and basically that can go until you can win 3-2. So I think it's very, very important to win that first game.
Very much so. Alright, we're getting straight into the swing of things. Bear has taken Mage into this game, while Visions has taken Druid. Bear's deck looks very close to a Tempo Mage, with the Mana Worms, the Mad Scientist, Unstable Portals, while Visions looks like he's playing the very standard ramp druid, combo druid there in his decks. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen here. Give me a second, let me turn the sound.
Yeah, it looks like, Visions, his hand was bugging a bit for me there, or Juggernaut, I'm not sure what he prefers to call them. But he's got quite a lot of ramp in hand, but almost too much. You know, double wild growth and innovate. He's just got nothing to do with all that ramp. And this is where something like the Tempo Mage can really take a huge advantage.
Definitely so.
Worm is going to be huge with this Apprentice Coin Unstable Portal if Bear chooses to.
Yeah, the tempo that Bear actually gains by doing this. You know, you've got a 3/3 now on board. You're picking up Mini Mage as well from the Unstable Portal, which is actually really not bad considering that you're running Arcane Missiles, Frostbolts, things like that in the deck. So, but yeah, Visions has actually got far too much ramp though, if you consider the fact that he's got double Innovate, Wild Growth, and Lotheb in hand.
And he's already played 1 Wild Growth, so that's almost all the ramp you're going to see. That is one of the nightmare hands for a Druid.
Yeah,
and
most
it
definitely.
couldn't get really much worse in what is definitely a favorable matchup anyway for Bear.
Yeah, this is definitely a favorable matchup for Bear, but we're going to see...
Yeah, I think we're going to see a double invade with Savage Roar to clear the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah.
I like this play. I think Visions or Juggernaut's really only going to win this game by making some kind of tempo play now. If he lets the board spiral out of control, it's going to be very, very bad for him.
Yeah, things are going to get a little bit out of hand. Dib, so that you are aware, people saying your audio is just a little bit low. If you could possibly just turn that up a bit.
Sure, I will see what I can do.
Alright, again guys, so you know there is just a little bit of delay on the stream, so but we are busy working on that issue. Alright, Bear has picked up the Azure Drake here. Her hand here is actually a little bit awkward in terms of what to play, but she can definitely go for the Scientist, Mini Mage, and then just push 3 damage to face. Although the Mini Mage may be, you know, a little bit of overextending, considering that the board kind of gets hurt to swipe. Swipe trading clears the board.
Does make her board very susceptible to swipe, but you do see Visions or Juggernaut only has 1 card in hand, and now he picks up the other piece of ramp that has been cut from a lot of Druid lists recently, the Thanasis Aspirant. So it's really, really an awful hand here for Juggernaut.
Yeah, most definitely. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to see if I can turn Dib up here on my side for you guys. Alright, that should be... I've maxed you out here. Alright, so the Donasis Aspirant coming down on board. Yeah, still very awkward here for Visions. He doesn't really have too many, doesn't really have too much. He's gonna go for the Wild Growth, though. He's ramping just up so much further. I don't know if that's actually right. I definitely would have thought of maybe possibly keeping that, trying to pick up draw, considering that your hand is now emptied out.
I mean, it is going to be something like 4 turns before you can actually draw, and I think generally against a Tempo Mage, the game's going to be over by then. I would have liked him to keep the card as almost a bluff more than anything, to try and prevent your opponent from, you know, overextending to the board because they're worried you're going to swipe them, or, you know, that you're going to... even in the late game, it can be a bluff for the Force of Nature Savage Roar to make your opponent play defensively, if it gets that far. But I mean, the way this game's going, you know, the Tempo Mage is really doing what its name suggests.
Yeah, there's just...
they're completely destroying the Druid here for tempo.
Yeah, so much tempo here. Pushing face with the you know, the mini mage, I actually like that, because you're now forcing your opponent to actually deal with the 4-1 that you have, which can easily be dealt with, you know, with the living roots.
Yeah, and you're setting up a position with the secret such that, like, well, yeah, we do see it as mirror entity, but
yeah,
it's a position where Juggernaut's going to struggle to both play a minion and deal with that mini mage. You know, he would have needed to draw a 5-mana minion exactly. But yeah,
oh man,
living roots, which was another dead draw pretty much.
Yeah, Arcane Blast being picked up here for Bear, which is actually very strong in Tempo Mage, especially with the Azure Drake out on board. 4 damage for 1 mana is just absolutely absurd, especially with the fact that you can select your target.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I believe with the Flame Waker here, this is almost close to lethal. Pity the Arcane Blast, you know, if it had a target, that would help a lot.
Yeah, most definitely. So let's see what comes about from this. Oh, Juggle's going face.
Oh, 1 damage. Or what you can do here is... No, it's not worth it.
It's really not worth it.
Arcane Blast your own minion, but it's not. You're not going to get the lethal, so it's really not worth it.
Yeah, if there was that chance of actually picking up that, it would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, Arcane
Blast. But I mean, Juggernaut is pretty dead here. There's nothing
Yeah.
you can really do to prevent, you know, just any of the minions going face.
Yeah, unfortunately, nothing you can do here. You can clear as best as you can, but unfortunately you do still lose this one. Unfortunate here for Juggernaut. Unfortunately going down in this matchup, and Bear picks up the first win with her mage, and is going to be leading this best of 5, 1-0.
Yeah, and as we've seen, or as I mentioned earlier, winning the first game is very, very important, because now Juggernaut's in a position, he needs to pick to counter Tempo Mage, essentially. If he doesn't have a deck in his lineup that's good against Tempo Mage, then he might struggle. But even if he picks a counter, wins with that, then Bear is back to equal footing, and she gets to choose the counter. So as long as you have a wide range of archetypes that you can pick from, you can really easily counter your opponent.
Yeah.
As long as you know your matchups as well. You know, this
Yeah.
is where knowledge of the meta and knowledge of matchups can really benefit you in a tournament like this.
Yeah, most definitely. Alright, so that everybody knows, Visions can no longer use his Druid. His Druid is no longer applicable. Jordan Bear has to still stick with the Tempo Mage, the exact same deck. And Visions has gone with, I don't even know whether it's Secret Mage or just standard mid-range.
I believe it's going to be mid-range, because speaking to him before, he didn't seem to be much of a fan of Secret Paladin. He said one of his most favorite decks really was mid-range Paladin. So I mean, the BGH is also indicative of mid-range Paladin.
Yeah, although you know, it could also be a little bit of a tech card, but a lot more indicative that he's actually playing your old, like your really old school mid-range Paladin, which is actually doing fairly well. Especially with the Keeper of Uldaman that has been introduced as well. Also a very nice card that's been introduced. I mean, can be used offensively and very well as well defensively. So quite a nice nifty card that. Shielded Minibot coming down here as well. You know, 2 Shielded Minibots, you know, Coin Minibot is actually really, really strong.
Yeah, one of the other reasons I like the mid-range Paladin pick from Juggernaut is that one of the best counters to mid-range Paladin is Freeze Mage, and if he manages to beat this Tempo Mage here, it puts Bear in a position where she can't pick Mage again, so there's no way she could pick Freeze Mage, which then leaves her in a position where there's not as many really great counters to mid-range Paladin, which is really one of the reasons we're seeing mid-range Paladin played so much recently.
Yeah, most definitely. Here we go. See the Arcane Blast just getting rid of the one shielded minibot. Stampeding Kodo coming, through. Actually very, very useful here as well.
Although, when we see the muster for battle, it's going to have a pretty low chance of killing the minion you wanted to kill, which is the minibot.
Yeah, but now with the muster for battle.
Very nice minion. A 3/5 for 2 in this turn is still pretty good value.
No matter how you want to look at it, that's really nice value here.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what she's going to do here. I would definitely try and, go for this little, like, 50-50 per se, or possibly just go, Frostbolt and ping away one of the 1/1s.
It's a little worse than 50-50, but I think you need the body on board. I like the idea of pinging first, because you're going to get a lot of value from that Sorcerer's Apprentice later, so you don't need to play it. And I don't think the Frostbolt is great value here either, when there's a lot of really good targets. It was a 1 in 3 to get the mini-bot, so she wasn't very likely to get it, but she still is in a decent board position here, where her opponent can't deal with her Stampeding Kodo with what is on board.
Yeah, most definitely. The Stampeding Kodo is actually a very strong minion here, and quite a big board here. We actually see Visions or Juggernaut, as you guys will know, going face. I think he may be keeping the Knife Juggler Muster for battle, obviously for that nice big tempo swing, as well as getting a little bit of extra damage, possibly helping with trades, clearing out this big Stampeding Kodo that we actually see here. But interesting to see what Bear's going to choose to do here. She could go for like the Sorcerer's Apprentice, Frostbolt, Arcane Intellect, refresh the hand a little bit, able to clear out the Stampeding Kodo.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is the best use of Frostbolt. I feel like there's nothing really wrong with trading with the 3/5. And we see she's actually going to take the even more defensive play, I would say, by not casting the Arcane Intellect. To me, I feel that leaving the 1/1 on board isn't that punishing. You've already seen that last turn your opponent hero powered, so they're unlikely to have a Blessing of Kings, or they would have just played it and dealt with your Kodo.
Yeah, Kodo, also being able to prove that he's actually the nice big meat shield that he is, able to picking up Bear, going with a much safer play, as you said, making sure that she maintains board control. 5 mana, we could see the Knife Juggler Muster for battle, which I think is what Juggernaut's going to be going for, but is it really that worthwhile in this situation?
I think it's a bit of a desperation play. I'd very much like to see him hit the 3/2 though before he plays this muster, just to keep one charge of the weapon, and it's unlikely all 3 are going to go on the 3/4, and you give yourself less wasted damage. Oh, okay, it's worked out that he didn't do that, but I think it would have been slightly better to play with his odds there.
Yeah, most definitely. I think possibly better to play with the odds. Okay, Bear's going to look like she wants to just top up her hand a little bit of Arcane Intellect. Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're seeing some
Ragnaros?
really good value here. And Ragnaros and Tempo Mage. Personally, one of the cards I really like. I think it does a lot against a lot of control matchups, especially when most of these decks that play Rag, they also play Boom on turn 7, so the BGH, which most decks usually only run 1, is sometimes not by the time you play Rag. Having those 2 minions that are in BGH range means one of them is going to survive a BGH at least, and for something like mid-range Paladin, that's one of its best ways to remove big minions like Rag.
Yeah. Alright, we're going to see Sylvanas come down. Turn 6 Sylvanas is pretty decent. Although Bear is starting to look a little bit in trouble, I would definitely start thinking that she needs to start getting a little bit of face damage in here. Looks like she's going to trade everything in. Is that really worthwhile? Yeah. I understand why you would want to get rid of it, especially because you don't have any sort of silence. So I think trading in your minions is actually worthwhile, and then going with the Azure Drake, picking up a draw and see if you don't pick up something off of that, like a Mad Scientist possibly.
Yeah, I don't hate the trade. You are definitely going to give the Sylvanas more value if you don't trade there. But I wouldn't have hated just going face as well. You would have put your opponent on 17, played a an Azure Drake, which is not really worth that much if the Paladin steals it. All it really affects is Consecrate in the Paladin deck. And against the Tempo Mage, 2 to 3 damage, it isn't a huge difference. Most of your minions are either 2 health or 1, really. Only really the Mana Worm sits at 3 health.
Yeah. Alright, we can see Juggernaut going face again here. It's gonna be interesting to see what Bear decides to use.
I think
Rag.
Yeah, this is the perfect time for Rag. Your Flame Waker's not going to get any value here because you can't use your spells. And also, if Rag gets a favorable hit and either kills the low dip or even hits face, it puts Bear in a decent position. Yeah, killing the low dip is well, possibly optimal from Bear's perspective, but DGL is a good answer to it.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what... It looks like Visions is most likely going to just clear the Azure Drake. That's possibly the most logical play if you want to look at it like that. But we're going to see next turn, you know, Flamewaker come down, and I definitely would like to see some pressure applied by Bear. Using the Flamewaker, Fireball face, get some pressure down.
Yeah, the killing the Azure Drake there, it might seem bad from our perspective that the Paladin wants to take 4 damage, but actually the Paladin is reducing 2 damage as well, because the spell power is no longer affecting the fireballs. So I think it's a pretty good play. I think that Bear can really take a gamble here. You know, she has to choose whether she wants to gamble on Visions having any heal or not. At this point, it's very unlikely Visions is going to be able to race Bear. Paladin generally doesn't have a lot of burst. And at the moment only has 10 on board, so I suppose she's on a 2-turn clock, so she can make the more defensive play here and kill the Keeper of Voldemort, kill the BGH as well, but it does leave in a position where she's going to need a lot more here to actually get towards lethal herself. Yeah,
She's definitely going to be looking for something. Unfortunately, with the Fireball disappearing, she doesn't really have too many options left here. I suppose her one saving grace would be picking up Antonidas and using like counterspell, picking up, you know, potentially an equality being sucked up. At least you generate that extra fireball.
The fireball here is not bad. The way she's chosen to play this is that she wants to play a bit of a value game here, so she is going to need to fireball this boom. Doesn't really have an option.
Yeah.
The question is where you want to use your Flame Waker first. Do you want to assume that the boom bots are going to get hit and then hit your Flame Waker and maybe preemptively hit the zombie chow so that you can ping it beforehand, or do you want to just hit face and hope your Flame Waker survives?
I definitely want to use any sort of spell here first. I would rather just, you know, if you're wanting to fireball boom, definitely ping it first and then use the fireball so that there's no wasted damage, you know, going there with the ping.
So she chooses to kill the 1/1 here instead. I agree that you probably do want to ping it first, but yeah. In the end, if the damage actually hits boom, that's not bad. And then you get to play the counterspell, so I can understand that perspective as well.
So nice! Boombot's only hitting the Flame Waker for 1, which is really, really nice, and I would actually say nearly lucky for Bear.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty nice hit. It also set the Zombie Chow onto 2 health, so the Zombie Chow doesn't have any favorable trade here. So that Zombie Chow is pretty much, 5 life guaranteed at this point for Bear.
Yeah.
So I think Bear is in a decent position. Juggernaut's in an awkward position here because he's only seen Mirror Entity last game, so his assumption is probably that that's a Mirror Entity, in which case he has to be very careful playing the Sludge Belcher. We know that playing the Sludge Belcher would definitely be the better play, as that is actually a counterspell.
Yeah.
But he's choosing to kill the Mad Scientist. Here he's going to see that there are 2 secrets in the deck, and now he knows that one of them is almost definitely Mirror Entity. So now he's really stuck in that he cannot play this Belcher.
Yeah, because now playing the Belcher just means free Belcher, and it's really going to set Visions behind even more. He's got advantage here, there's no doubt about it.
I think I would have liked to see him hold the Belcher for next turn, unless he's expecting to draw a really big minion next turn. Then holding the Belcher gives him the initiative, so it would have allowed him to hit the opponent's Belcher that spawned with a weapon and then the Boombot, you know, essentially getting rid of the first half of the Belcher. Whereas now, Bear is in a position where she gets to choose where the Belcher goes first.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Boombot going face for 1. Wow. Boombots, both of them only hitting for 1. That's actually quite a lot of work here for Bear. Unfortunately, I think by, you know, actually trading there, you allow your opponent to actually clear your Belcher completely.
Ooh. We see
Murloc
the
Knight.
Murloc Knight here. This Murloc Knight is possibly a lot of value. Something like an old Murkai here would be huge, but even something just like a War Leader. I mean, yeah, even a
Bluegill
Cold
would have
Light
been
Oracle,
good, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, Cold Light Oracle is fine. 2 mana, 2/2. You know, in the position where they're both in this top deck war. Ooh, these value cards that they're both getting here are really.
Is there going to be a Pyroblast?
I'm not sure Pyroblast is what you would want. Fireball is pretty much. I don't know whether you even want to take the Fireball here. You might want to take the Arcane Intellect if you believe that the way you're going to win this is through playing out your minions. Because we have to assume there's probably still a Boom in this deck. Maybe an Antonitis, but sometimes that's cut for Rag.
What to do?
So depending on what's left in this deck is really going to depend what Bear chooses here. Yeah, so
Yeah,
Bear
she-
opts to take the value game here. And she
Oh,
gets an
wow.
Unstable Portal.
Unstable Portal.
Which would have been one of our other choices from the Discovery.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be
maybe
interesting.
correct Not to take the Unstable
Yeah.
Portal there.
Imagine double Unstable Portal. That would just be absurd, especially if you were to pick up something stupid like
Runs out on
Well,
Deathwing.
Yeah, if she hadn't taken the Unstable Portal, she wouldn't have drawn this Unstable Portal.
She actually runs 3 secrets. That's actually very interesting. Flame Cannon? I don't know.
Well, yeah, often you sometimes see 2 mirror entities in a counter spell, so you know she's really getting very good value. Unfortunately, this is not going to be a very good value.
Cold Light
These Cold
Oracle
Light
just
Oracles.
doesn't want to die.
They really like. But this is a good position for Juggernaut. He can trade off the slime, and then even Ethereal Conjure the face. He's seen that there was an Arcane Intellect that Bear got from the Ethereal Conjurer, so he knows it's not burn. He's seen 2 fireballs, so he knows there's no more fireballs in the deck. The only thing he might be worried about is something like a Pyroblast, but you really are unlikely to see that in Tempo Mage. I would predict at this point that Tempo Mage doesn't actually have a lot of burst left.
Yeah.
We might see him go for the Zombie Chow value instead, but I would really like to see him clear the Conjurer with his weapon.
Yeah.
Just because that's really going to set him up to win the value game long term.
Yeah, he'll be put onto 10 health, which means, you know, it's going to be challenging. Let's see what he actually does here. He goes with face into the slime, and then clears like that, putting himself back onto 20.
Yeah, but I feel like there was only a very slim likelihood that he actually would have died from 10 with 1 card, with 2 cards from Mage.
Oh wow, Faux Reaper.
I mean, at this stage, any high value minion is very good. It means, unfortunately, Bear can't ping here, so she's going to have to trade the Ethereal Conjurer. I think it's okay to trade into the Murloc Knight here, because if your opponent draws dead, you're just, you're very far ahead.
However, the True Silver is going to stop that pretty much. But yeah, I think the
Okay, but you still lose both your minions to the Faux Reaper here, because you have 8 damage and you cannot kill the Faux Reaper. So the best you can do is kill the Flame Waker, and then the Faux Reaper clears your board.
Oh man, Faux Reaper. Oh, the cleave is so good at the Faux Reaper. Interesting enough, I was playing... Oh, wow. I think this is pretty much in the bag now for Bear. She can clear the board.
We've seen BGH from Visions as well already, so he may not have an answer at all to this boom. That is one of the very few times I've actually seen Faux Reaper attack.
Normally it's pretty much dealt with as soon as it actually comes... Oh, it's silenced or something. So it doesn't actually pick up that cleave effect. But, oh wow, there's the Aldor. Really nice save.
Yeah, so this is pretty important, but, Visions, Bear is still in a very good position.
Yeah,
9
most
damage
definitely.
on board. It's going to be tough because I actually question whether hero powering there was a good idea. Because now the Foe Reaper can just hit the 1-1 and it kills the 3-3 for free.
Or do you actually want to trade a Boombot in and hopefully get some face damage? Because that way you could be pushing a lot more damage into the face.
Yeah, Visions might, or Juggernaut might have also been trying to bait the 6-7 to go into the 1-1. I mean, you might just want to push the 6-7 base to end this game as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
That's probably the better play in the end anyway. But yeah.
There's 7 damage on board. You can get, a few, a little bit of life back with the True Solver with the 2 heal. However, I really don't suspect that Visions can actually come back from that Juggernaut.
I mean,
so
he would need something here like Equality to go Equality Consecration, but he can't even do that because there's Counterspell up.
Yeah.
There's no spell option that he has that is going to be sort of a game-winning. Maybe something weird like Eadric the Pure or another Eldor to put on the Foe Reaper. Those are maybe his only options to survive here.
Yeah, but I think at this stage of the game, Lotheb as well. So I think Lotheb, ping away, go face again, that's 7 damage, putting your opponent onto 6, and you've got lethal on board as well, so
yeah, and
you can't play spells.
Counter spell, and B, even if they did, it would be really expensive.
And that as well is going to deny Juggernaut of getting anything else from this game, and unfortunately loses this game with his Paladin. That's really unfortunate here. So 2-0 to Bear in this Telkom DGL Preseason Cup Grand Final. It's last hero standing, best of 5, and she is currently leading it 2-0. Really, really good stuff here by her so far in this game.
Yeah, this is a very advantageous position for her. She's in a position where Visions needs to pick a deck that can win against all the rest of her lineup, and he doesn't even know what the last 2 decks could play are. So Visions here, I think he's just picking his comfort pick, which is Control Warrior. It's not all that great against Tempo Mage, especially a Tempo Mage that has Rag in. So I think he's really just going for a comfort pick here and hoping he can somehow reverse sweep this series with this pick.
Yeah. So yeah, this is his last deck, the Warrior. So unfortunately, he's going to have to somehow reverse sweep with Control Warrior. But as we know, Control Warrior is just so susceptible to, combo, just plain out combo druid. But hand not looking too great, but lacking some weapons. But he does have like the executes, so he's all right. He's got the Armor Smith for turn 2, so but that's also just going to die to like a flame cannon if there was something.
Yeah, Armor Smith is pretty weak against Tempo Mage. I mean, it's only really good once Flame Wicker comes out. That's a very good minion to get from the unstable portal there.
Yeah.
Stopping a weapon hit on the Silver Moon Guardian is very, very strong. Whether you actually want to play it now is a good question though. The Armor Smith will remove the Divine Shield for free, and then you could hit it with something like a Fiery War Axe.
Yeah.
But Bear really doesn't have any other plays for next turn or this turn, so I think it's correct here to just coin out the Silver Moon Guardian, and then you can do something like Arcane Intellect next turn, or even just ping the Armor Smith. Yeah,
ping. You can clear the Armor Smith. Juggernaut will be able to gain 2 armor off of it. 2 armor in the great scheme of things, especially considering it's Tempo Mage, not so not such a big thing in the end.
Yeah, 2 armor really doesn't mean much. We see Visions, it's just really not getting his weapons. That's what you really, really need to compete against Tempo Mage as a Control Warrior. He's even forced here into executing. I think it's the only way he's going to maintain control of this board with a hand that is really not very good if he loses control of the board. Shield Slam, when you're playing from behind, is pretty bad because it's very unlikely you're actually going to be able to generate much armor to do much damage with Shield Slam. And Shield Maiden and Boom are too late really against Tempo Mage a lot of the time.
Bear's going for the RNG here.
Yeah, I don't mind this play. You have a decent likelihood of killing the Hammersmith, I'm not sure I necessarily agree with the ping. I think Mad Scientist is fine. Your opponent's basically shown you they don't have weapons in hand. The only
Yeah.
weapon that they're likely to then have now on turn 4 would be Death Spite. And I don't think you're too sad if your opponent, Death Spite into your Mad Scientist to give you a counter spell or a mirror entity.
Okay, well there we go. We see the brawl, which, I think in this matchup, especially the fact that Bear is running counterspell, we could actually see brawl needing to be delayed a little bit, just so the fact that, oh wow, speak of it and it shall appear, I guess. Counterspell being picked up here by Bear.
It's a pretty bad draw though. You really don't want to draw your counterspell, especially when you have a Mad Scientist on board.
Yeah, most definitely. Oh, yes, there we go.
Yeah, the Brawl's problem really is that the Tempo Mage deck is so full of spells that it doesn't get a lot of good value. It's not something like Zoo where most of the cards that they're throwing out on the board are just creatures. The Tempo Mage gets a lot of value from its spells, so something like Brawl can be a bit weak actually.
Yeah, most definitely. Bear here doesn't really have a way to remove the Acolyte, and unfortunately, draw for Control Warrior, or just about Warrior in any way, especially with the Acolyte, is so crucial. If you can stop that, you pretty much give yourself a big tempo swing in the game. So it looks like that Acolyte is most definitely going to get at least 2 draws off of it. So, considering that you don't have any way to get rid of it or deal with it, I would rather just play the Azure Drake here.
Yeah, I do agree there. I would also be more of a fan of the Azure Drake, but I think by essentially having both spells out, Bear's trying to get herself a minion by getting her opponent to play one. Her opponent hasn't played any weapons or minions yet, so it's fairly likely that they should have had one by now. We know that this is pretty much stopping the shield bearer, but I think the Control Warrior is okay with this. The Control Warrior can just armor up and play something weak if it wants, like a Mind Control Tech or a Cruel Taskmaster, not targeting anything.
Yeah.
Then it frees itself up to play Boom next turn. I think it's quite important that Visions here actually does play one of those two, in order to allow him to play Boom next turn if he wants, or Shield Maiden and Shield Slam if Bear plays a threat.
He's going with the hero, with his armor up. Is he really considering not playing anything? He doesn't play anything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really not too great.
The Mind Control Tech really doesn't get a lot of value here, and giving your opponent a 3/3 doesn't really mean much. I mean, if it trades with itself, so be it. You're also in the problem where you're not going to be able to Shield Slam because you know that there's a counter spell. Or
his first weapon! It happened!
Oh yeah, but
oh
your opponent's
no!
6/6 now, and you can't Shield Slam. I'm not sure what Juggernaut's plan was here, but he's really just put himself very far behind by not playing around those secrets very well.
I think he was trying to just get away with counterspell,
to give your opponent a Dr. Boom there. Yeah, but I don't think he actually saw the secrets in the last game, which is pretty important. After he realized he'd lost that last game, it might have actually been better for him just to play a spell, just to check for counterspell.
Bear needs to be careful
so that
about
he
playing.
knew what the last secret was.
Most
But
definitely.
He would have done enough checks in the last game that he should have known.
Yeah. Bear playing a little bit straight into a really good ball here. But
Maybe this is Juggernaut's plan. Maybe he thinks he's at high enough health that he can bait his opponent into playing a lot of value and then brawling. From what we can see here, Brawl is not bad, but Mind Control Tech is possibly better.
oh,
Not
so
not
nice.
great, but he still has the weapon in order to clear something like the Azure Drake with the Cruel Taskmaster, and then actually setting up a slightly favorable board for himself.
Yeah, he's slowly but surely he's been able to get the ball a little bit back, especially if he does go for this trade onto the Azure Drake.
I think he's also considering the Brawl here. Brawl's not bad. I mean, it looks weird when you have 2 minions on board that you're brawling, but now you actually have a 2 in 5 chance of your minions surviving,
Yeah.
which would be huge for tempo.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I like the Brawl. I think otherwise you're playing Taskmaster and Weapon, and you're hitting the Azure Drake.
That's just
That is a
unfortunate.
Very bad result. Yeah, and when we're gonna see this rag come out, advantage for this by taking 13 to the face this turn.
Yeah, 13 to face on 18, which is actually very close to, you know, to... Is he really going to call Taskmaster?
I think he just wants to get the cool Taskmaster on board, I suppose. Because obviously you don't need to cool Taskmaster rag in order to BGH it.
Yeah.
It is one of the nice combos that Control Warrior sometimes has. But I believe Bear here has lethal. Oh no, 1 mana or oh no, if you play the Sorcerer's Apprentice, I think it's lethal, right?
That would be...
6 plus 1, yeah.
Yeah,
That
so there is lethal, but let's just see if she can actually count here.
Bear did tell me before the game that she was bad at maths. And
I
she's
have
an
seen
English
her...
student, and she said she is bad at maths and needs a calculator.
Yeah, I have actually seen her at the fireside with a calculator, so this is no joke. No, Bear, you've got lethal. Don't, no!
Oh, that was trick. I mean, that was an exact lethal with the Sorcerer's Apprentice reductions. You know,
Yeah.
that would have cost exactly 9 mana and been exactly 20 damage. So it's maybe not the easiest lethal to spot, but you probably still should spot it as a tempo mage player.
I would rather just play the mirror entity. You know you're going to have some sort of tempo, and then push face here. You're going to get extra juggles. So either it clears, and you
I
set up
agree.
pretty much for lethal.
I
But
don't
yeah.
think you need to clear the Taskmaster here. It's really not threatening you, and there's a relatively good chance you cleared it with the Flame Waker there, as
Yeah.
we saw.
Yeah. So the Flame Waker, you know, with the little juggles, it's giving Bear quite a bit of value here. Although she really doesn't know what to play. She can't play Ysera because you're giving your opponent 4 damage. Boom is 7 damage.
I think your Ysera is just wrong here. I don't think you could really play either of them. I think you needed to kill something in armor. I mean, Bear definitely has lethal on board now. She
That's
should
11.
hopefully see this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is easy enough for her to see. It's
If she didn't see
Bear
this...
needs to take this 3-0 with a tempo mage. You know, impressive performance from her. Vision's really not, Juggernaut really not being able to bring out any deck that actually solidly counters the tempo mage.
Yeah, unfortunate there. So Bear, in the end, taking the Telkom DGL Preseason Cup Grand Final champion spot with her Tempo Mage 3-0 in this last year standing best of 5 format. I'm flabbergasted. Tempo Mage being able to pull off a 3-zip win is really actually impressive considering against mid-range as well as Control Warrior. Although Control Warrior sometimes, especially as you saw there, if not drawing weapons early game to control the board, does fall back. So unfortunate that he wasn't able to pick up the win there, but you know, at least with Control Warrior. But Bear playing really well, can take absolutely nothing away from her. She played everything as close to, you know, as perfect as possible there.
Yeah, I think you know, I think it was pretty well played from both players. I think that Tempo Mage was a very smart pick from Bear. You know, it's a situation where it's a deck that can easily just win any game. Really,
Yeah.
in somewhat of the same way to Druid. It's part of the reason those two are very, very strong in last hero standing, because even when your opponent picks a favorable matchup, you can still win the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I encountered that myself in this tournament. You know, I picked, you know, Zoo into Druid, and my opponent still won. Or my opponent actually picked Druid into my Zoo. He won, and then I picked like something else that countered Druid and still lost. You know, it's one of those decks, Druid and Tempo Mage, that can just do insane tempo plays that any deck can really struggle to deal with.
Yeah, no, most definitely. A Tempo Mage, as you say, it's just so strong, and as the name implies, there's some really good tempo, especially if everything's playing on curve. You know, you're getting some really good drops off your unstable portals. If your Flamewaker juggles actually hit the places it needs to, along with the arcane missiles, Tempo Mage is just really strong. Control Warrior, you know, I would have actually liked to see a Control Warrior win, just for the sole fact that, you know, losing 3-0 in a final is a bit of a blow. So unfortunate there for Juggernaut.
Yeah, I think we might well have maybe seen a Control Warrior mirror at some point too, because I know Bear is also a fan of Control Warrior.
Yeah.
So that would have been interesting to cast if Juggernaut had been actually able to win that game. I think his Control Warrior draw was a little bit pitiful, to be honest.
There's no other way to really put it, because
But-
not drawing weapons early game, it's really just awful.
Yeah, and I mean, he got a little bit. He wasn't favored on that brawl by any means, but he got a little bit unlucky.
Yeah.
But you know, it's hard to put it down to luck. I think he probably wasn't expecting a deck like Tempo Mage. It's not a deck we see too much in the meta these days. You know, mostly people are bringing Freeze Mage as mage. So I think it was a smart pick from Bear. You know, as I said, picking that deck that can just win versus anything. So I think that was very, very smart from her, and you know, congratulations to her for winning.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Congratulations. You can take absolutely nothing away from that. She played her cards as well as she could. Pity she didn't see lethal earlier, though, with the Control Warrior matchup, unfortunately. But unfortunately, you know, there's only so much you can do. As you said, she has said before, you know, I know she's got a honors in like English literature as well as something else. You know, unfortunately, really good grammar in English. Unfortunately, it doesn't always give you the ability to see something like that. But let's also be honest, there's absolutely that lethal is really difficult to pick up, especially if you're not looking at something like that. You could be looking like I've got 12, 15, 20 damage on board, but I'm 9 mana, that's 10. And not remembering that even though playing Sorcerer's Apprentice, you know, is 2 mana, you're reducing your other cards, you're reducing by 3, effectively then giving you an additional mana for that play. So often not easy to pick up, but you know, the win in the end still there. So either way, Bear taking the win in this Telkom DGL preseason cup grand final 3-0 with Tempo Mage. So yeah.
I mean, I would have hoped for a longer game than we had, but
yeah, most definitely.
You know, interesting to watch, and congratulations to both. I mean, this was a 128-man and woman tournament, so it took a lot for both of these players to get here to the final. You know,
I mean, in this tournament, Skunksy had entered. Probably one of South Africa's most consistent ladder players. There are one or two that I know of that actually have never entered, and one or two of them, or the one, has actually got about 4 or 5 top 100 legend finishers. Who hasn't entered DGL yet. So interesting to see, you know, some South Africans. Pandemonia, who was our 2015 South African Hearthstone champion, that was in this. I got knocked out by you, I think, in the second round. Thanks very much.
Yeah, we made it in the second.
Which was a little bit tough.
In top 8.
Yeah, it was unfortunate meeting you so early in the ladder, unfortunately. But I mean, you know, things happen. You know, so there was a lot of really good players. There was Selfmoot that was in here as well. Major Pain, Apex, a lot of good South African players that just didn't make it, and look, you know, underdogs coming through, and I'm always a fan for the underdog coming and pulling through in Hearthstone. So really, again, congratulations to both Juggernaut and especially to Bear on taking the win. To everybody that joined us in chat, thanks very much for your assistance. We're just going to put a little scene here to end off the stream. To you guys, thanks very much for popping in. And stay tuned for DGL. Follow them on Twitter and Facebook for more news on the DGL that's going to be happening. South African players, if you have not entered the DGL yet, I highly recommend you go and do so. It's, you know, a couple of legs during the season, but potential spot at the Rage Expo where the Telkom Do Gaming Championships is held, and big prize money available there, and as well as the title of top South African Hearthstone player available there. Dib, thanks very much for joining me here tonight on this stream, and look forward to casting you in the future, as well as meeting you in the DGL.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. You know, big shout out to the organizers. They were definitely testing their new platform with this preseason cup, but it was definitely nice to get some, you know, warm up under the belt. Because for a lot of South African players, I think one of the only things they really play is you know, DGL and stuff like that. So for those players, it was definitely good to get a warm up.
Yeah, definitely a good warm up.
I think there's a lot of really good South African tournaments for people to enter. So hopefully we see, you know, people like Bear and some of the other people that are entering DGL for the first time, you know, becoming more aware of the great South African scene that's developing here, especially with the Tavern Hero coming up in Cape Town.
Looking forward to the event in Cape Town in a couple of weeks' time. Weekend of the 14th of May, if I'm not mistaken. 14th of May is the Tavern Hero. 15th and 16th is the big online qualifiers, correct? Also 13th, 14th. It's around that weekend.
13th of May is the people that won their respective Tavern Heroes playing, and 14th, 15th is the preliminary. So if you win, I think it's top 32 or top 32 from the Tavern Heroes in the end. From all the different Tavern Hero winners will go into the preliminaries, which is the spring preliminaries, because Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, Northern Hemisphere.
And then top 8 from that would go to the actual championships, which would be, or the spring championships, which would be in America.
Yeah. Either way, looking really forward to the event that's going to be happening in Cape Town, with Blizzard, getting behind us and all. So really looking forward to that. However, nevertheless, Dib, thanks very much for joining me here. Always much appreciated having a co-caster able to actually bounce off each other. Again, to everybody that joined us, thanks very much for joining us here today. We'll be seeing you guys soon again.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have some interesting games to cast, especially when DGL starts, and there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff happening in the coming weekends with Tavern Hero Tavern Hero events.
Yeah, most definitely. Alright, guys, thanks very much for joining us. We will be keeping in touch with you shortly. Remember, follow Telkom on Facebook, on Twitter. I can't think of their handles on now. Unfortunately, that's really not good on me. But yeah, guys, make sure to follow them. Just search Telkom Do Gaming League on Facebook. Twitter, they will have all their handles and everything on that Facebook page. Dib, again, thanks very much to the viewers. Thanks very much for popping in. Hope you guys have a great evening further. And we'll be seeing you guys in the near future.
Yeah. Cheers to everyone, and thanks to the organizers.
Cheers, man.
Takes the peak, sprays him down, that's 3. Fantastic play.
Magnus goes in, gets a couple with the op. It's stolen by Rubik. He gets all 5.